Assuming this is on, you can hear me okay. At this time, we're going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the December 12, 2024 meeting of the East Longmeadow Centertown District Steering Committee. We're going to take roll call real quick. I am Carolyn Farrows, the committee chair. Jason, vice chair. Gumbert. Don Stark, clerk. Nicole Polite. And Steve Graham. We also have Ralph Page, ex officio town council member, who is not here this evening, and Rob Terrell, who is the ex officio member from the planning board. He is also not here this evening. So I just have a couple quick comments. The charge of this committee is to educate and inform the public about the Centertown District planning process, solicit community feedback, and present a recommendation for a district map and bylaw to the planning board and town council. This is our agenda for this evening. We're gonna move through it as quickly as possible so that we can get to the task at hand. I want to take a moment to review the project process. Over the past year, the committee has worked with the community to build awareness and to answer questions about the impacts this process could have on future community and economic development. Over the summer, the committee hosted community engagement events with speakers from different areas of expertise. Most recently, we hosted a map drawing exercise where members of the community came together to share with us their preferences and thoughts. The next step in this process is the purpose of tonight's meeting. The committee will deliberate and review the maps drawn by the public and by the recommendations presented by PVPC. Following tonight's meeting, the steering committee will work to draft bylaws, host a public hearing, and then take a vote. The draft bylaws will then go to the planning board for public hearing, deliberation, and a vote. Then the draft bylaws will go to town council for public hearing and deliberation, with the town council taking a final vote. So why is the town pursuing a Centertown district? We have finances stabilizing the tax rate. The more residential and commercial properties we have, it can help grow the tax base. We have housing options for every stage of life, not only for the young, but also for our aging population. And be proactive in growth management. The population is going to grow. That is inevitable. A Centertown district plans for and directs future growth to a limited concentrated area. And zoning determines land use for the future. The town is not going to be developing these properties and does not have a project in mind. This process simply creates the rules by which development is cited. Summarize. Andre LaRue was one of our speakers over the summer. Some of you were able to be in attendance. He spoke with residents about the 40R smart growth and was quite impressive. We're going to play a clip for you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lisi, Deputy Town Manager for East Longmeadow, and this evening we had Andre LaRue from Matheny talking to us about 40R zoning. Tonight's event was to learn a bit more about 40R and get the facts straight so that our community is more informed next time we come together and start building out the bylaw for the Centertown district.
I was asked to talk a little bit about kind of the Chapter 40R, which is a state law in Massachusetts that's called the Smart Growth Overlay District. It's not about growth or no growth. Communities will grow, but it's about, are you going to manage it, plan ahead, or are you going to let it happen haphazardly? The idea behind doing a 40R district is that it creates predictable permitting for developers, and it's for the community. The community is basically saying, here are the rules that we want to get a certain kind of design. you will go through a process. You will design a district if you would choose to adopt this. And it can have the features that you want it to have. Once you put those rules in place, then it's a very streamlined process for the developer. So it doesn't come from the developer, it really comes from the community. And the community decides where it wants to grow. Because one of the big critiques of 40B has always been, oh, that's fine, we're not opposed to housing, but we don't want it there. 40R allows you to say, we want it here. Your local zoning laws are basically the rules of what people can do with their property. And so if they can't do much with their property, they can only put a single family home for every acre on it. It has a certain value. If you change the zoning rules and you allow more development in those properties, there's more value you're creating. That's why you get more property taxes, because it's a more valuable property, you can build more homes. And if there are vacant properties that haven't moved in a long time, if you what's called upzone them, so you can do more with those properties, they're going to become more valuable and they may get more interest from developers or investors. You want services and you don't want your property taxes going up. It behooves you to figure out where in your community you want to have some density. You're getting more property taxes in like the center of town, and you have more resources to conserve key parcels of green space in other parts of the town. There are certain pieces of the state law that are required, like there's kind of an affordability component so that you have a mix of incomes. If you're trying to create homes that, your kids or your teachers, your firefighters can live in, then you might want to try doing some different kinds of things. And maybe a 40R is not bad because you have to have the 20%. There's also an incentive payment to it. When you adopt this, depending on the amount of growth or additional units that could be built in this new zoning, the state pays the town a certain amount of money. These are the different densities that you can choose for different kinds of districts. Obviously, it doesn't have to look the same in every community. There's no details to the proposal because this is a process that the community does to design it. And this is the beginning of that process. It is to intensify the uses so that you can do more things, but that's part of what you as a town need to decide on, like where that growth is going to happen.
Okay. Is this on? There it goes. Okay. Our first order of business is item 3A, presentation by PVPC. Is there a motion to take up 3A?
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Representatives from PVPC, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us back. My name is Kyle Fennell. I'm a senior land use and environment planner with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
Hey, my name is Aidan Hameen McMahon, and I'm a senior planner with PVPC as well.
So today we have returned with a presentation to in part summarize the wonderful work that community members participated in back in October at the October 21st community event, where we had a mapping activity. And then we're also going to present some alternative options for center town delineations for the steering committee to consider and deliberate on following the presentation. So at the October 21 event, more than 55 residents participated in the group activity, working as tables to build consensus on what a preferred center town district would look like on a map, and then provided large trace of those delineations. We asked for some guiding landmarks so that we could make sure to understand what those lines and squiggles meant. And we also asked for some elaboration on where the tables found agreement and where the tables had disagreement. Of the 15 tables that we had set up, 14 provided a delineation or an actual district drawing. I'm going to go quickly through these 15 and then talk about how we got to our alternatives. So table one drew a rather large district, primarily north-south along North Main Street and Shaker Road, including Industrial Drive parcels. It went all the way up to Heritage Park. Group participants most agreed on rezoning the industrial zones along Chestnut Street. And the main difference in the discussion was really how far the center should go, or the district should go from the center of town. Table two included landmarks, primarily the rail trail, incorporating the existing rail trail and potential expansion to the north, really focusing on existing businesses. The group participants most agreed on including Chestnut Street area for future development, the old package machinery area, and extending the rail trail was an important feature with no differences or conflicts. Table three provided a more confined district, maintaining existing parks, including the commercial and retail, where it meets a residential boundary. They wanted to ensure that there was some type of buffering, like shrubbery, where the Centertown district met residential outside. The participants most agreed upon keeping the industrial and the residential zones separate. They discussed and differed on fixing the intersection, which I believe is always an interesting topic of discussion. Table four provided another rather large drawing. They included mixing uses, or including the mixed use zone to the south on 3330 Chestnut Street. There was a note that said they would like to see something similar to Eastworks, if you're familiar with the mill redevelopment in East Hampton. They did not provide any information on disagreements or agreements. Table five really wanted to focus on the main business parcels along Shaker Road and some of the industrial zones to the east along Maple Street. The participants most agreed on not extending the Centertown district beyond Brook Street, North Main Street. Table six provided the most confined delineation, mostly around Center Field to, I believe, the Carlin building. This was a hard handwriting to read. They wanted to include surrounding the town shops, going up to Elm, along Elm Street, Brook Street. The group agreed to avoid redistricting homes or residential and focusing on those industrial parcels. There were some differences on some wanting no change in town or in the center of town, and some wanting more walkable center district with small business spaces. Table seven provided another large delineation focusing on the rail trail and North Main Street, and then also Chestnut Street. The groups most agreed upon including businesses and industrial zones. Table eight, another more southernly focused rezoning, focused on rezoning what presently existed. They didn't provide any examples of agreement or disagreement. Table nine offered another focus on non-industrial and mixed use, agreeing that along the rail trail and around the town rotary was the priority area of focus. And they said they agreed on everything. So that's always a positive consensus. Table 10 was an agreement that they suggest the town stay as is. They provided no delineation, no drawing of a center town district. Believing that it's not wanted nor feasible. Voicing their opinion that this should be a ballot decision. Table 11 offered another smaller center town district delineation, focusing on Spruce Street south between Shaker and Prospect, including White Avenue, Brook Street to the north, between Elm and North Main, and Baldwin Street to the west. No agreement or disagreement provided. Table 12, again, more centrally focused, including Spruce Street, Brook Street, looking at back lot lines for the parcels that have frontage along those roads, and including the industrial and/or commercial properties that exist. There was agreement on avoiding residential areas, keeping the district compact, and using streets as boundaries. There were differences, but compromise was found on northern and southern boundaries. And some wanted to go all the way up to Maple Shade in the north and Chestnut to the south, which they decided not to. Table 13 is the most expansive example. They didn't provide notes on their landmarks, but it extends from the industrial garden parcels beyond Industrial Drive to the south, all the way up Shaker Road into the center intersection. And then to the east, it includes municipal parcels, the Department of Public Works properties. They didn't answer the agreement or disagreement questions, but they provided a short list of their priorities, such as keeping green spaces open, limiting it to 1 or 2 units per acre, avoiding historic areas, including short distance transportation, such as a town trolley, which is always a novel idea, stressing more affordable senior housing, and questions whether or not increasing population would be a greater strain on traffic and public services such as police and schools. Table 14, I believe the only example of 2 distinct districts. They included a primary central district that extends down Shaker Street and up North Main Street, stopping before Greenacre Lane, and including some of the parcels north of Baldwin Street, which I believe is self-storage, and then a sub-district which includes the parcel at 330 Chestnut Street. And then the last table, table 15, drew a Centertown district primarily north-south, with Chestnut Street as its southern boundary, Shaker Road, North Main Street. It extends up to, forgive me, is it Spaith Arden? And it includes the rail trail as the boundary on the west side of the district. So the 14 resident generated maps were reviewed by planners at the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and scanned, put into a digital format, and that's where we started to play with how those could match or not. So first of all, we established 2 primary criteria for how we were going to synthesize the various combinations and permutations. So we focused on identifying where the table maps from the residents overlap. So those boundaries that we shared. And then we really tried to group them in terms of scale. So you saw several tables try to keep their Centertown district very confined. Some were very expansive and broad. Some were more north-south as a corridor along North Main Street and Shaker. Some were more east-west, extended down Maple or even to Summer Avenue, I believe. And so Working through these, we found 4 syntheses. But we also discovered that there is one outlier that we just thought was too broad. It aligned in some ways, but it just was kind of above and beyond. So we excluded that one. So the first synthesis came from tables 3, 6, 11, 12. These were the group that proposed the smallest district. We noticed that there's shared features, including the industrial parcels west of the rail trail and south of Maple Street. Spruce Street to the south, was also a shared boundary. Prospect Street to the southeast, and then Brook Street and Elm Street, that kind of corner was a shared delineation. Synthesis 2, we grouped tables 1, 4, 7, and 8. This represents kind of the largest range of proposed districts. Shared features include business and commercial zones along Shaker Road. All of these delineations included 330 Chestnut Street and the industrial zones around it. Commercial and industrial zones north of Westwood Avenue were also included from these tables. And the commercial zones surrounding Center Square were also included. Our third synthesis came from tables 5, 9, and 15. This is kind of our middle category in terms of scale. Shared features include business and commercial zones along Shaker Road, primarily. The commercial and industrial zones north of Westwood Avenue, and commercial zones around Center Square. So that's not accurate. So it's the business and commercial zones along Shaker, the industrial zones along Baldwin, and then the commercial zones along North Main Street. And I believe that's Westwood and Maple Shade, I think around that intersection.
That's where it stops.
That's where it stops, yeah. Sorry, I don't like Texas. The fourth synthesis, we brought table 2 and table 14 together. These two maps each proposed medium scale with a secondary subdistrict. We included table 2 with table 14, even though table 2 showed the rail trail to the south. That's not a developable parcel. It's an amenity that exists. So we included those together because they both kind of keep 330 Chestnut Street as its own sub-district to a medium scale Centertown district, including primarily the industrial zones north of Baldwin Street and the commercial zones around the center intersection. So we turned all these drawings into a delineation for alternatives for the steering committee to consider. Before we show you those, the one outlier, again, table 13, which was very expansive. The unique features were the industrial garden parcels south of 330 Chestnut, and then the zone south of Pleasant Street along Summers Road, including the municipal properties. So starting at where the delineations from the tables overlapped, we then looked at kind of the middle range of where those lines branched and diverged, trying to close the gap and kind of cut the difference. We also referred back to the notes that the tables provided so that we could get a sense of what the tables were thinking, try to understand what residents were really looking for from those syntheses. And this is what we've come up with. Alternative 1, call it a compact core. This is the smallest Centertown district alternative. Boundaries include Spruce Street to the south, White Avenue to the east, the industrial zones west of the rail trail, both north and south of Maple Street. This district comprises of 152 tax parcels. It is approximately 96 acres in size, which is only 1% of town's total area. That breaks down to 35% zone business, 4% zone commercial, 25% industrial, 16%, which is multi-zoned. Only 5% is residential A, and 15% is residential C. And just for everyone's residential A is kind of your base density, which I believe breaks down to about 0.7 units per acre. And residential C is your more dense residences. I think it's about 1.5 units per acre.
Kyle?
Yep.
Just because there's a lot of yellow on the map and the district is yellow, do you think you could point out the district for the audience?
Sure.
And just remember that, okay, if you're using your hand above the projector, it goes black. So you might want to use the mouse if you can.
So in the north, we have, see up here, I can't remember that one. I think that one is, sorry, I don't remember all of these. To the east, we have White Avenue, which is here, I believe. I think this is Elm and Brook. Just maybe mistaken. It crosses over the old rail right of way. It comes down, I believe that's Baldwin Street.
Yeah.
And then it heads down Maple just a little bit and then cuts south to include those industrial parcels. And then cuts back east, following Spruce Street to the south. That's the southern boundary. And then that comes right back up. Is that Prospect Street? Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
So that's alternative one. Alternative two, which is a mixed use corridor. This is the most expansive alternative. Boundaries include. Okay. Okay. So the boundaries include 330 Chestnut Street to the south, coming up Shaker, following Chestnut east. Then it kind of zigs and zags through a mix of commercial and vacant parcels. It follows the back lot of properties that have frontage on Prospect, but not Prospect. Between Prospect and Shaker, it comes up along the back lot line. It includes a little bit of the businesses on the east side of the central intersection, comes up Elm Street just a little bit, crosses over Brook, follows North Main Street, includes some properties on both sides of North Main Street, past Maple Shade and Westwood. It comes all the way up and then crosses back over to the west, coming beyond the old railroad right-of-way, and includes all of the currently industrially zoned parcels along that right-of-way. The boundary comes all the way down south, around the self-storage parcels, along Baldwin Street, back to Maple, and then comes down to the rail trail and the large industrial garden parcels north and south of Chestnut Street. Alternative three, our middle scale delineation, more of a central district. So boundaries for this parcel to the south, it touches the corner of Chestnut and Shaker. It includes the rail trail as its western boundary coming north, When it gets to Maple Street, the boundary goes to the west and includes parcels on both sides of Baldwin Street as the boundary goes north. Then it follows the industrial parcels that abut the old railroad right-of-way all the way up to Westwood Avenue, which is its northern boundary. And then it follows North Main Street back south as its eastern boundary and includes some of the commercial zones just east of Center Square. So just the parcels that are just around the center intersection of town. This district includes 201 tax parcels. This is approximately 138 acres, which is 2% of the town area. Current zoning, about 38% business, 2% commercial, 29% industrial, 13% multi-zoned. It's only 0.1% residential A. I believe there's one parcel that's your base density, and about 19% residential C. And alternative 4, which is really a district with 2 sub-districts. Boundaries include, for the main central district, you have a Shaker Road with industrial zones west of the rail trail that goes up the east. I'm sorry, up the to the west, it goes up Baldwin Street, includes those industrial zones that are now self-storage, and then cuts across along parcel lines, property lines to the east, and then follows North Main Street to the central intersection, down, I believe that's Summers Avenue, and then cuts back to go behind the parcels that are down Shaker Street. And then the secondary sub-district is 330 Chestnut down to the south. So this is 95 current tax parcels, approximately 126 acres, about 2% of the town area. Currently, it's zoned 12% business, 2% commercial, 27% industrial, 32% industrial garden, and that's strictly the 330 Chestnut Street. 17% multi-zoned, 0.1% residential A, and about 10% residential C. So we have 4 alternatives for the steering committee to consider. Again, alternative 1 is about 96 acres. Alternative 2 is 310 acres, about 4% of town. I don't believe I shared all those details, so I'll read all those. That is 268 tax parcels for alternative 2, our mixed use corridor. That one is 19% business zoned, 9% commercial, 16% industrial, 32% industrial gardens, 7% multi-zone, 8% residential A, and 9% residential C. Our third alternative, the central district. Again, that's about 138 acres, 200 tax parcels. And alternative 4, our sub-districts, it's 95 tax parcels and approximately 126 acres in size. So at this point, I believe we're welcoming public, no? These are the 4 alternatives, and that concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. In new business, the committee will review and deliberate the community-generated district boundary maps. After deliberation, the committee will vote to create the Centertown district boundaries. At this time, I will entertain a motion to take up item 4A, review and deliberation of the district boundary maps.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
You'll want to use the microphone so they can hear you.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm back on. Yes. Okay. So we have the four maps. I'm happy to pass the maps, the thing back and forth. We're not taking questions or comments at the moment. We're gonna deliberate.
Just a concern of the past. Could you possibly make those a little larger? You can see them, maybe put a red dot right at the rotary, everybody knows where that is.
We can do that.
Enlarge it.
Yeah.
You could take that very easily, lower some of the font sizes and make the picture twice as big on the previous one. Yeah, everybody knows where the rotary is.
We're just gonna take this offline while the committee deliberates and then we'll bring it back up.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that while we're talking.
Yeah, I wasn't even saying for today, but just.
Yeah.
I was sitting there and I heard a lot of people.
Sure.
I can't see it.
Yeah, no, sure. Sounds good. I'm happy to pass the mic around if you, as we go. Any initial thoughts, on any one of these four? One that you might be leaning towards?
Sure. On which one I'm leaning towards?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm leaning towards the core, the number one alternative, the core, the more compact illustration provided.
Mhm.
And the reasons being, it reduces the risk, smaller projects, minimizes the financial risk to a developer and the community. It also gives a better approach to address unforeseen challenges. And it also helps the community, some of their concerns they have up front. It also helps with community acceptance, allows the community to grow on a smaller scale and ease into the concept. Also the opportunity for the growth, smaller projects allow gradual growth, making it easier for the town's infrastructure and services to adapt over time rather than being strained. And also provides more flexibility. Starting small projects or smaller infrastructure allows for flexibility to make adjustments based on real life feedback from the town. Sorry, getting over cold. And it also lets developers get time to adjust to what we're looking for in terms of designs, amenities, and feedback as well. So I thought my alternative one.
Thank you.
Guess I'll go next.
Sure.
I like the idea of a more compact district. I agree with much of Nicole's thought process. I think the town would react better to some slow growth, see where it goes. I talked to many, many people just walking up the street, wherever I was, and there is an appetite for the center of our town. And when I'm speaking about the center, I'm talking around the Rotary area where we have the industrial park coming down that I do encourage this town to change for commercial or business use. I will state that I do have a bias. I live literally almost in the center of town in an historic house. All of the houses on my side of the street, left side, from Brook Street down are all were built before this town became incorporated. It started 1800, 1830, 1860, all one family. They're lovely houses. I get concerned when I see that residential houses would be included in this. I do think there'll be some pushback from it. From a personal standpoint, we bought the house knowing we backed up to some commercial properties and business. I am pro-business. You have to have a good partnership between the residential and the commercial. I don't know that we want to open up more shaping areas, so to speak, as well as when you buy a house, you buy it and you think, this is my property. And then to change the zone, I think can be very disconcerting. Having said that, the state just changed a statewide law that I know is not related, but in the big picture, because this involves the entire town, is related. They passed the ADU. So I look and I say, residential, especially say residential C, which are larger parcels, they can have accessory dwellings by right. The town is now putting in some guidelines and proceeding as best they can. To me, it's an unknown. I can't say if it's good or bad. I don't really have an opinion yet until I see what happens. So I think there's an opportunity here, however, to address some of the housing issues. As far as mixed use within the actual town center district, I'm personally very open to that. I think if our town has some vision through our boards and with developers who have real vision and see this town with the value that it is. Our town has value. We need to start making that apparent. Many developers know this. However, we want quality vendors to come in, or developers, I should say, who share our vision of town. And that means when you look around the center, you see something that may be more aesthetically pleasing, suits the local populace well, becomes a destination, but we have to be careful with, of course, we've got the Rotary, which is in the middle of town. So that in itself can hinder some things, I think, at times. But I do agree on a compact core. I would like to see the residential, because there, in all of these, there are many residential areas that may be affected, and I'm concerned about that. Also 330 Chestnut, I have no idea. I understand the thought process in why many tables wanted that included. That is an area, if for those of you, most of us know this, but maybe you don't. That is where there is it's a brownfield. It's where the old package machinery was, and currently the town is we've got the warehouse there, and so I think people want to address that and get that answered. I don't have an answer for that, but that is so far removed, and I would say when we go far down North Main, it's removed from the center as well. If it's a center town district, let's keep it in the center. Thank you.
Thank you. So before I pass it on, I was looking at alternative 3. And one of the things that I want to know is that we can, these are suggestions, and we can take edits to these. I liked number 3 specifically because it does address a lot of the industrial going up the northern part of the rail trail. I think that it's important for our town to look at those particular parcels, the industrial parcels. And then that space, I believe the parcel in that one that's not included is just the other side of the rail trail, which is the Carlin building, I believe, in number 3. So I would suggest moving that line over to include the Carlin building. It's also the one that has the least number of residential A. And looking at the lines, I know that the Rotary is the center of East Longmeadow by default, but by doing this, we have the opportunity to change the face of where the center town district is. We can say that the properties where we have center and to the west, that we can pull the traffic away from the Rotary. We can pull it down Shaker Road towards those other industrial properties and create more walkable spaces and create more commercial use, mixed use, and try to get people outside of the Rotary and away from the Rotary.
So great points made already. I have some of the same sentiments and questions. My first inclination is actually to go for the mixed use corridor approach. I can't say I'm happy with every line on it, but my initial thinking is, especially taking into account some of the newer plans around North Main Street's redevelopment in the next few years, including new grants that have been won to improve and modernize it. I think redevelopment along that corridor, as far as we can take it, is smart to go to accompany that kind of transportation development. And similarly with the rail trail being sort of explored for redevelopment too, I think moving as much additional flexibility in development into that area is a net positive, I think, for the future of the town. I can certainly see the attraction of a central district as well. But in addition to the points that have already been made, I think that's why I would first lean toward a mixed use corridor, option 2. And it's really, but I do also really appreciate hearing everyone else's thoughts on this.
I looked at it from the viewpoint of the town in the compact district area has the most parcels that are underutilized or vacant, or have been utilized in a very inefficient way for a long time. And that's going to change one way or another. It has to change going forward. For that reason, I focused on the compact core, but I also think, a little adaptation might be worth considering, as some of my fellow members have said, with regard to the mixed use corridor. But our center of town offers an extremely interesting opportunity that really can't be found any place else that I'm aware of in Western Mass. And that is it offers a truly walking community. Right now, we have set up a couple places to eat, 2 churches, health tracks to work out, Walgreens, number of places to shop, places to get something to a coffee or an ice cream, and the walking trail. And it's all within minutes of this central core. What we don't have is housing, which would really make an attractive place to live, where you could come out of your door and just walk to any one of a number of those things that already exist. And if developed right, could become, I think, one of the nicest walking communities anywhere. So for that reason, I'm really focused on the compact core. Thank you.
Do you want to read Ralph's comment into the record here? I'm sorry, Ralph's comments.
Okay. So Ralph Gage, our ex officio representative from town council, is unable to join us tonight, but has a few remarks he would like to have read into the record. Steve, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. So these are Ralph Page's comments that he sent in because of his absence. Rebecca, thank you for sending along the compilation of districts. I have the following thoughts. Number 1, my recommendations regarding boundaries will change based on what language is included in a bylaw. This process seems backwards. Shouldn't we develop criteria that the town wants, then decide where it would best fit? Number 2, if we start with a compact district, we can add to it as the needs require. If we start with a larger area, it is extremely difficult to scale it back. Number 3, currently, 330 Chestnut Street meets the requirements for a multi-use village if the property owner chooses to request a zone change. For this reason, amongst others, we should not consider making this a part of the Central District. The Central District, by virtue of its name, depicts a new zone within the center and not spread out. The Industrial Garden Park should be left alone. One of our town's best features is having a well-established industrial garden park. Number 6, a vote should be taken to see if the town wants to proceed with 40R, as this will make a difference on what parcels are included in the center town district. Number 7, removal of industrial in the center of town should not suggest a complete removal of our industrial district. Many small manufacturing and machine shops can diversify the town, which helps recession-proof it. These are a few of my thoughts as we move this process. Ralph Page.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. So if we're looking at a combination of alternative 1, 2, and 3, is there, I know your concern is primarily with residential parts.
I do have a concern over that. Yes. Because I think when I think of Centertown District, East Long Meadow is a bedroom community, and we're unique in the fact that we have a great industrial, commercial, and business backbone. We came up through this. We also have a lot of residential, and people like to live here. People love it. I do. And I think we tend to be protective of our houses. So when you buy the house, you're thinking, this is my house that I bought. If a zone changes, and there is the argument that, well, you now could make megabucks because you could redevelop your house. That is true. That's a possibility. I get a little concerned about creep down some of our streets. On North Main Street, many years ago, we had its zone. When I picked up and I looked at our zoning map, to me, where things should happen jumped right out. And it was some of the industrial that is near the center corridor, commercial and business. I think from an economic development point, commercial and business development is key in the fact that those two developments they add to our tax rolls. However, they do not but add to our school rolls. Having said that, to Steve's point in the center, if our town devises its own rules, we could make it so it's upscale living arrangements and not necessarily adding to our school. I get concerned we're building a new school that's going to be beautiful and it will host X amount. We don't know what the future is going to bring. I like slow development. Yeah, I'm rambling on here, but I definitely like some of your ideas as well about some of these close by areas undeveloped or like Baldwin Street that could be incorporated. I definitely am a proponent of cut out some of these residential. I also saw some of these maps cut right down the center of a street, and I'm going, so half of the street, you're cutting up a neighborhood, and half of the street is not, and half of the street is in it. I think we need to be very cognizant of what we do. Thank you.
So if we looked specifically at one and so the biggest difference between 2 and 3 is this lower southern portion of the map, I feel like. The two large
The two extends
parcels.
past, two
Yeah.
extends north of Maple Shade as well. I'm just kidding.
Oh, it extends south and the north of Maple Shade,
Maple Shade, yeah.
where 3 does not. So if we're trying to come up with a cohesive set of boundary lines, is there any other discussion or thoughts as far as what we do like that might be in 3 versus 1, or what we do like that's in 1 versus 3, or
I think that, in my mind, the center town district should be really focused on the center of town. And to extend the boundaries north and south as far as 2 and 3 go, I'm not real keen on that.
okay. You have any thoughts?
No.
Any additional thoughts?
No. I know. What do you ask to talk at this point? It's only 7 o'clock.
Okay, so we are at this time, we are going to go ahead and open up the floor for public comment. Vote for that? We can take a vote to open for public comment? Yes. Yeah. Okay. At this time, I would entertain a motion to open the floor for public comment.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. In order to afford the committee enough time to conduct its business this evening, residents are invited to state opinions or ask questions during public comment. Questions and comments will not be addressed on an individual basis, but will be noted and addressed as a whole by the committee in their following deliberation. We ask that you come forward, state your name and address for the record. Speakers will have the floor for 1 minute, 30 seconds, and will be asked to step aside when their time is up. Questions and comments should focus on the issues and avoid personal attacks. As an ongoing democratic process, a lack of closure must be expected and accepted. Be fully present and do not crosstalk.
Aiden will get it to folks.
Okay, I'm gonna get it off the mic. Thank you so much. Sure. Any questions or comments?
I have the mic here, but anybody who wants to speak, please come up and I'll hand this over to you. I can also come to you. I don't necessarily come up unless.
No, let's come up.
Go there.
Voted and then motioned and then seconded.
Motion, let's see.
I also think number 1 and number 3, definitely not 2 or 4. And I just want to make one correction on Dawn, sorry, but
Yeah.
Residence C is the smallest lots. not
Oh,
the
okay.
largest, but it's mostly Residence C around the center of town, including, I believe, your property. It's C or B, so C is the smallest, not the largest. So, and to get rid of industrial right around the center, the 2 lumber marts need to be rezoned. Get rid of the industrial zones right around the center of town.
I lived in Amherst, Mass.
Name and address for the
many
record.
years, and Amherst started,
Name and address for the record.
Eleanor Schuman, 16 Bella Vista.
Thank you.
And Amherst started building mixed use buildings right in our downtown, whether there was room there for them or not, they plugged them in. What they didn't do was consider parking. And I hope that whatever rezoning or acreage is designed and planned, the parking is taken into account. So that if apartments are created, that residents have designated places to park and they're not taking up the public parking areas, because that's what happened in Amherst, a town that already had no parking, now had even less. So I'd just like to make sure that's taken into account.
Good evening, Ernest Gagnon, 24 Tamarack Drive. We're talking about services that will need to be rendered for residents, new residents to our town, police, fire, schools. I think we need to discuss density and the mix of business versus residential housing to take that question into account.
Nora Diane, 46 Glendale Road. I think we should take into consideration Ralph Page's statement. I think it made a lot of sense. I don't know if this vote has to be taken tonight. It was my understanding that this committee was extended through March. Maybe I've got that wrong, but I think that was stated at the last meeting. So if it doesn't need to be taken tonight, I think maybe we should consider it. He had some, I think, pretty accurate and pertinent kind of comments about the considerations we should have. And I also am very interested in knowing how the town's going to be affected by new laws, law that's coming in February, because I do think that would make a difference to what kind of affordable housing might be available to town. I know people that have already made comments with what their plans are, and they are for small homes and small apartments. And I think that most definitely could have an effect on affordable housing for people in town.
I am Phil Rosa, Harwich Road. It seems obvious to me that there's only one area in town that can be developed in the center of town, and that would be the depot area in the Carlin building. With so many options on Maple Court, maybe close that off. That seems like the place to start. That makes sense if you want to test this. It would then become similar to Long Meadow to some extent, and it's a core close by and over by Rockies and whatever we call that center district area there. Those two working in concert. But beyond that, it seems way too ambitious right now. We've got two obvious parcels that'd be available, and I bet you I know somebody would develop it. Closing off Maple Court might be the only thing we need to do. And using the little ponds at the other end. That area there is obvious. We could go with it sooner than later. Thank you.
Roland Bolduc, 110 Smith Avenue. I've been a resident for 35 years now, 36 years. I've also was involved with the traffic studies and other issues that we've had here in town. My worry, of course, is traffic. We have the Guinness Book of Records sitting out there in the Rotary, and every road leads to the Rotary. And if you're going to do something that my business, they deal with packages, calls dense makes sense. You were thinking the same thing. Dense makes sense in the center of town. Well, dense brings in traffic. That will create dense traffic. Until you can put in a 4-lane road that runs Route 83, how much more dense can you make it? I just sat out there working on our Christmas tree that with all the lights, and all you have to do is sit out there for a day or two or a night like we have been and listen to what goes on in the Rotary. Go out there and have a seat sometime. You'll be amazed. Also, how small or how compact of an area do you need to qualify for this 40R? Did they say? I don't know. Also, how many people were involved in the brewery drawing? the drawing party. They highlighted quite a big area, quite a small area. They all came up with areas. Were the people in those areas notified about this and what's about to happen to their area? Because I think it's only fair to do that to our citizens that are either running businesses or living there. And that's all I've got to say.
Mike Raleigh, 15 Leicester Street. Question, with the areas within town that we could put it up, is there any plans? I'm just talking, let's say the Big Y Stop and Shop area. The owners of those facilities looking and saying, gee, we want to try to expand in this direction or that. Or are you working totally just on your own? Or are you looking, talking to other businesses in town? You know, do you have any 5-year plan down the road, 10-year plan, and how you'd like to expand your area and see it?
Hi, Greg Thompson, 426 Porter Road. I think one of the main things that we do need, and it's obvious, is housing in this town. We talked about it a lot. I think there's somewhat of a concern about the affordable housing aspect of it and the 40R. I think a possible strategy we looked at would be density, perhaps 12 per acre. I think we can get market-based, reasonably priced housing, not affordable housing, but market-based, reasonably priced housing for our aging parents, for our children who have graduated high school or college recently and want to live in East Long Meadow. Currently, there's no way to grow out of your house, and there's no way to enter the town affordably. So I really hope that housing is a large part of this. I know we haven't worked out the details yet, but I don't think we should be afraid of it, because the country has a massive shortage, and we all need to do our part. And if we want East Long Meadow to continue to be healthy, it has to continue to grow and be better. So thank you for all your work on this.
What else?
Yeah. It's a quiet room.
Hi, Charlene Baldock, Smith Avenue. I'm just a little concerned that we're doing these few zonings on one night that we spent in October with a certain amount of people that showed up that night to decide where we're gonna go from here. I think it's too short of a time in a single night to decide what our zoning is gonna be. I think that's something that needs to be thought of further. I don't think that now's the time to decide tonight that we're gonna check 1, 2, or 3 and go with that. I think it needs to be, I think we need to look into it further. I think one night with just 7 tables or whatever, 13 tables we had isn't enough to decide what we're gonna do with the future of East Long Meadow. And I agree a lot with what Ralph Page had to say in his comments too. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna head back if no one else wants to speak.
Aiden, can you just note in the microphone that folks online can also raise their hand on Zoom to participate?
Sure. And also, folks online can raise their hand, their virtual hand on Zoom to participate.
Everybody's raising their hand. Okay. Okay, so at this time, we'll go ahead and do a little more deliberation and chat about the maps and see what we come up with. Go from there. Based on additional comments from the floor, Does anybody have any additional thoughts, adjustments?
I think I tend to be a visual person. We've talked about a few changes here. I think maybe if we could nail down some stuff and get an idea of where.
Yeah.
I will say I have concerns of kind of creating a zone and not knowing exactly what's going to be in there. However, there are, we have to figure out the whole purpose is to create a zone, to create some energy and vision. And I think that can work. This is, I'll be honest, this is the most different process I've ever been in. And I've been in a lot of processes here. And at first I said, I don't understand it. It seems so odd to me. However, the conversations we're having with the townsfolk have been fantastic. It doesn't just relate to, a lot of the information we're getting from people isn't just related to a center town district. It's the spirit of the town. It's the future of the town. Where are we going to grow? A lot of it has to do with master plan. And I know we've all heard master plan. It goes into a drawer and it disappears. I feel there's an energy here that we should capture. As far as deliberating on what exactly is in here, that's going to be, I think, a big discussion. That's not happening here tonight. I don't know, I don't feel comfortable, I'll be honest, drawing this out. I want to see what we come up with.
Can I say
maybe.
something?
Yep.
Say something real quick. So tonight, what our objective is to draw out the first iteration of what this could possibly look like. And then it will go to the planning board and there will be deliberation. They can change, they'll be able to make edits from there. And then further, then it will go to town council, and then town council will then be able, so what we are drawing is not the final iteration of what this map is going to look like. This isn't a all be all final mapping. So what our job as the steering committee is to do is to give direction and say, if it's not one, maybe it's something somewhere in between 1 and 3. Maybe it's 1, but going up north a little bit, or it's 3 and taking it down a little bit. Then we kind of carve it out and then we move forward from there. And then it will be further edited and further altered.
So we're doing the creation tonight. We're doing the creation tonight.
The first iteration, yes.
Okay.
And if I may, as support staff.
Yes.
Thank you. So as support staff for the committee, I'll just say the goal tonight is to create a first cut at the center town district boundaries so that PVPC can do an impact analysis and help you better understand what the impact of those boundaries would be in terms of new growth and new housing potential. And then you'll also work to create a bylaw at another meeting. And then you may decide to amend your initial map based on what you put in the bylaw. And all that has to get voted on before you send it to planning board. And then they will have hearings. So public hearings to, just like any other bylaw that we pass in town, the planning board has to review it. They have a public hearing, and then whatever recommendation they make goes to the town council. And then town council has its public hearings and they can further amend whatever iteration they get along the way. But it is important to carve out an boundary this evening so that you could start to see what the impact is and what the potential for new growth and housing and other sorts of development are going to be, so that you have that information to inform what you're working on moving forward. Is that helpful?
Yes, that very. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other thoughts? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, just I guess on this, on a similar point, when I look at the different options, I think potentially different, rules that would then fall into place based on the size of them. So maybe more intensity for a smaller alternative like 1, whereas 2, which is obviously the biggest, or 3, which is still, quite big. Perhaps there's less pressure in that scenario to have the number of units per acre for housing, for example, or things like that. But I think, I want to thank the people in the audience too for raising some interesting points. I don't want to see, a district that includes as many parking lots, for example, as we have now, because they're hopefully not needed, right? Because to other people's points, there is more walkability. There is less need to be getting into your car and driving across North Main Street from one parking lot to another, which you see quite a bit today, right? So those are just some of the things that I'm thinking about in terms of the different alternatives.
Any additional thoughts?
I'm good.
Okay. What are we moving? Do we move on to?
You're still deliberating until you figure out where you want those boundaries to be.
Okay.
So maybe start with the compact 4 and trace the boundaries and figure out what's in and what's out.
Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at, let's start with number 1. And one of the things that I did notice on the right side, there is a lot of that residential going up Prospect. I believe those are on the left side of Prospect. Those are all residential properties.
There are a few that are not, like early, there are a few as you go up Prospect. There is, so you have the Congregational Church. There is on the left-hand side, the church owns the building. It's a white commercial building or retail building. There are also some, a couple of shops that go up. I don't know how far. If we could probably pull up our zoning map, which I've got, and we could just figure out, and we could, if we want to chop out. Is there a consensus here though about alleviating some of the residential? And I do appreciate the point that Marty made on if we want to do anything with Baldwin. There are a couple of residential parts there that go right into the zone.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with the way that 3 kind of cuts through.
That will help you trace.
Yes. So that it's not as, oh yes, here we go. These are.
Okay, yeah, that helps.
So looking at 3, the way 3 kind of zigzags through, and looking at this other map that we have where Spruce is, and then it kind of zigzags behind, those are all those residential properties. I do think that is kind of in line with what your thoughts are. So kind of zigzagging the same way that 3 does along the back side of those residential properties.
3 does a pretty good job on the zigzagging. It looks like maybe they looked at a map. I don't know. Good job.
So I do think that if we can redraw that going down that Spruce,
so we could
from
go down
Shaker and then zigzagging
and so it
up through the way that 3 does.
It's yeah.
You want to
zigzag. I'm trying to
You want to basically cut along the line of the backside of the industrial,
the backside of
that front Shaker.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm in favor of that.
And then on Elm, we've got, it goes, the first 2 parcels on Elm on the left side. And there is also, Stacy's is included in this, would be cut cut the first two parcels, which are the Pride Station and the old Romitos, and then it cuts down, then from then on are the residential all the way down the brook. And again, it looks like that was cut out on the number 3.
Agreed.
And then let's see. Shaker is good.
Are you?
Yes. The shaker looks good. Yes.
Are you trying to keep up, Steve?
I'm having a little hard time. Are you saying
So we're
right here?
we're up here.
Okay.
So this is Pride, and
Yeah.
then going this way, and then coming up this way.
Yeah.
Like this.
Okay. You don't want to include this.
So I think that we should go up and include this other part, the northern part. Yes, that's how you have it. Okay. Then
Yeah,
yes,
because
yes.
they are zoned. It's kind of naturally following our current zoning law, which was well thought out. And I think maybe if we hold the line on that, it'll make it a little easier.
And then kind of going back to directly the furthest east where there's the
yeah, you're right.
what is the PT place there on the corner?
Oh, yes, MBT.
So yeah, so kind of similar again to 3, how it kind of cuts behind.
Yeah, I think 3, yep, and they had the map, there's no doubt.
Okay.
Yep.
I do want to address this southern part of number 3 that is in number 3, but not in number 1. And a lot of those buildings that are along there, I think are kind of forgotten buildings. And right now there's a kind of a mix of industrial and office commercial there. We have a couple of businesses in there. There's the one that's like the buy something on Tuesday for $15, something on Wednesday for 10, and then it goes down until $1 on Friday. I've actually never been in there, but I think that including that section, and maybe doesn't need to go all the way down, but including some of those in there is that industrial area, just to try to elevate that space. And if there's a developer that wants to come in and pull that into, we're creating this idea of what could be.
Right. So those buildings are, many of them are the Spate buildings. If you look at Shaker Road, you go up and down, a lot of the buildings are the same building, cinder block and whatever. And so for future, to your point, would be that if and when ownership flips, now would be an opportunity to give a developer some juice, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's along the rail trail.
Yeah, that was just gonna be my point. I mean, anything we can do to encourage development somewhere where there is more walkability already built in seems like a real positive to me.
I'll support that.
Yep. Okay, so if
This
we
little pork chop.
yes, the pork chop, yes.
All the way down this Chestnut? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the way down. So including, oh, look at that. Thank you. We're really sorry.
Is that start at like a southern boundary or northern boundary?
Southern boundaries, Chestnut.
We're gonna start at Chestnut.
Start at Chestnut is the southern point. Including going up the rail trail and up Shaker to Spruce, correct? Is that what we have?
Yes.
Shaker to Spruce.
That's where the original.
I want to capture the rail trail, Kyle. Rail trail.
And then you're adding from Spruce down to Chestnut on the side.
On the
of
rail
the
trail side.
trail side.
Yes, on the rail trail side.
There are some houses there, but I think they're obviously zoned office and commercial, so they're already zoned, not residential. We've got two holdouts there on residential, but I think one is I can picture them, but I think they've got businesses in them, but they should, I don't.
Possibly. Okay. And then I think currently we have it kicking from there going west towards there's like a residential street there.
No, not that far.
Not that far.
Yeah.
Yep, to
Follow
there.
that line.
Yes, yeah. All the way north to Maple to include the Carlin building.
Across from like the North Cross House, you guys refer to it by things that newer people in the town have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's across from Norcross, correct? Or no, it's not quite down as far. It's not quite that far.
It's property on the other side of the rail trail.
So
Rail trail.
the rail trail and then the building.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
You got it, Kat.
Okay.
Down Baldwin.
Down the center of Baldwin Street.
So on one, it does not, it does cut off the left side of Baldwin. On 3, it does not. It includes, what are those parcels? Those are industrial.
I would
as well.
include all of Baldwin Street.
Yeah. Left and right side.
Yes.
Yes.
Left and right side.
Agreed. Do you agree with that? No. Okay, so
There's a question.
I should have spoken.
Yeah.
Just wait.
yeah. Can we finish this real quick? Can we finish this real quick and
Has to do with
Expand that triangle all the way to the center of town.
we're drawing the whole map and then we'll zoom out so you can see everything that we've drawn. So yes, from where the Historical Society is up, to include, the question I have is to include this mini storage parcel.
Triangle split the wrong way.
Yeah. He'll flip it. Yes.
Yes, to it, yes. Okay.
I agree.
Just gonna.
Need one of those old school overhead projectors.
Right.
Better.
You can just draw with a marker. That totally aged myself.
Me too.
You get that other thing there? That parcel.
All right, everybody, bear with me.
I could take a picture of this and text it to him. Put it on the computer.
Do the east boundary on that page.
This.
Oh, yeah, he got that. It's all jig jag there.
And then the last question I have is there is that's a conservation area. Never mind. There was a large parcel right here. That is a conservation area.
Yeah. That's pretty much untouchable.
Yeah.
You could still decide to put it in the district and it would remain conservation area.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna hand this to you. I'm gonna walk this over to him.
We conclude on the northern boundary.
Yes, sorry. Okay, so I think that what we discussed was including the parcel where the mini storage is. There's a little cutout on the northern part of the mini storage that is residential. Then coming back down the rail trail and then meeting back up with where one was originally. Or did you include do you want to include the conservation area?
Where alternative one is originally.
Yeah, alternative one goes south of the conservation area. If you go back down south along the rail trail. Yeah,
Goes south of the conservation area?
we can go south of the conservation area or we can include the conservation area.
Oh.
This conservation?
This one right here.
Okay.
It's just kind of sitting in there.
I mean, I would just add, we have potential rail trail north of that is in the same spirit of developing along a rail trail that leads to the center of town. I'm just, my personal view, it sounds like maybe this is not the consensus, but
sorry.
So with that potential rail trail addition being considered right now, that's a whole area that could benefit from being included in these boundaries for the purpose of putting more walkable development near the center of town.
I'm not in favor of extending the rail trail north. And so I think we ought to keep the boundary closer to alternative one.
Thoughts?
I concur.
Okay. So then going south of the conservation area. Yep, and then east along that boundary, around it, going all the way over to Maine. And then I believe that's north to Brook Street. Is that right? For going away to Brook? No, not quite to Brook. I apologize. Yes, to there. Not all the way over.
No.
Down. Parcel. Close to the right, just a little bit more.
On the other side.
Yep.
And down that.
Down.
And jig jag and down.
Jog
down.
Down one
to
more.
the left and then down.
And then jog left.
No, other left. Down. And then Down
a
a
little
little,
further.
what's that?
One more.
Down and then to the right.
There and then,
that
and then down to the
diagonal.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then,
And then down to White Ave. And then it follows, it doesn't go quite that far. It's just these first couple parcels right there. Yes. And then down. Can't read my chicken scratch. If I stand in front of the screen, will it?
Yes.
Dark?
Yeah.
It does. Can I come look over your shoulder?
No, you can stand right here. It's projected there.
I'm gonna hand you that. So it's this parcel, include this parcel. Oh, yeah. In front of it.
That's okay.
All right. Can I come look over your shoulder?
Yeah, that's the church, so. And then through the back of all those parcels. Prospect and not all the way over there, one parcel. All the way down, and then that little square to the left of that little square. Dawn, do you see what she's doing? Can you narrate? Can you narrate what they're doing? They're cutting down the back of the parcels on Shaker Street.
I can't see it.
So they're presently cutting the boundary south along the backs of the parcels that have frontage on Shaker Road.
There. Start there. Just takes care of your place. It takes care of all this crap behind it.
Pretty much.
The lumber place or the construction place. Don't do it for the whole thing. Start there. And if this works out, then bring it. This is where we need to develop.
Yeah.
And that takes
On.
you. It takes care of all the walk.
Shut the microphone. Can you ask him to just sit down? Oh, Peter to sit down.
I would start right here.
Lumberyard on,
Okay. Include that if you want the lumberyard on Baldwin Street. Just don't go into here. Don't go up.
Board guy.
Start here. Include Baldwin Street.
Yeah.
Okay? Just use that zone. There's no housing.
Nobody does.
What's that? I'm leaving, so I want to just forget.
Well, give him the microphone so he can.
Follow in Baldwin Street.
You want to have comments or not yet?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, so based on the conversation that we just had, the red line area is what we've come up with. It's a combination of of 1 and 3. It's taken a little bit of the parts of 3 going south, extended 1 just a little further north to include the mini storage and a couple of the other industrial parcels based on this map that we have here.
I think your southeast corner might be more narrow than what you had in 3. But I'm not sure if that's what you wanted.
Yes, so we did not draw to include, I believe there's on the south side. There's a couple of parcels on the southeast side on 3 that we did not include on 1. Do you have any thoughts? Does anybody have any thoughts on those parcels? I believe those are One of them might be Shaker Bowl. Don't remember what the other.
They're relatively, there's quite a few new builds there. There's a fair number of new builds there. So I think, to Carolyn's point, on the older builds might be where we want to concentrate. I know, I think it's looking like it goes all the way down where they've refaced on the Meadow shops have been refaced. A lot of them have been newly crafted.
So I would be curious on this other map that's got the colors. Behind where that area that we were just talking about, there is an underdeveloped or and vacant lot that's kind of sticking in there. I would be curious if we did not include those parcels that are a little bit more developed, as you said, but maybe try to bring that underdeveloped vacant land in if it looks like there is a office commercial zoned property that abuts that underdeveloped vacant land, and it does not look like there's anything on that land. So it's this part right here. Yes, this. So this space right here.
I don't know.
Where on this map?
This.
It's currently landlocked.
Oh, okay.
And there are a lot of paper streets there.
So that landlocked, it just says underdeveloped or vacant. It does not say what it is currently zoned.
So there's spruce.
South of Spruce.
It's just, yes,
south of
just
Spruce.
south of Spruce. A landlocked area. Any ideas, Tom?
I think it's res anyway.
It's zoned residential. But it's landlocked, so. Just a thought, that it might just open up more potential for along that whole area, that section. But I see your point about those are already updated.
They're updated. I'm also thinking, to Nicole's point, was that if we have a more compact area and we concentrate and we see how it goes, we can always, if it's really successful and, take a look back. This is going to take quite a while.
Right.
Anyhow, so maybe in 5 years or more, we'll have a better picture of where is the town going.
Okay. Any other thoughts or discussion about what we've come up with?
I just want to make sure that you guys are happy with the way you captured the top part, because it is different than any of the other maps. I don't know if it was captured accurately. That's all that I'm concerned about.
On the northern end?
The northwest end now, that tall piece.
That's like right there.
Like the Baldwin Street area.
It's beyond Baldwin by a lot now.
Yeah, okay, so that carve.
I think to the north, I'm not sure why we include the conservation area. And not leave it like we have on alternative one.
We did not include the conservation.
Not include it.
No, it is not.
That drawing.
That it does not include it.
Yeah. There, that includes it.
That area is where the mini storage is.
No, the mini storage.
Not that far.
If you look at
That's the lot. That's the plat. That's the parcel.
Oh, I see.
That is the parcel for the mini storage.
Doesn't cut off at the line that's not highlighted.
No. The mini storage units The mini storage units actually go quite a bit closer to where that cutout is, to the left. It's on this map that we're looking at. This is the mini storage. It actually does go quite far back into that lot.
This is the mini storage.
Yep, and that's that cut end right there. So it does sit pretty far back into that lot.
That's an old lot line. That is an old lot line. It doesn't exist now.
The dotted line
Correct.
is an old lot line.
There it is. That's the parcel. There's the self-storage.
Okay, perfect. Yes. Yes, so it does take up quite a bit of that parcel.
Okay.
And then, so lastly, based on looking at this, this other map, it looks like we've captured without having to go further into residential. It looks like we've captured about as far north as we would be comfortable going.
So it seems like.
Yeah. Okay. Any further deliberation? Steve, do you have any other thoughts? Okay, so at this time, I will entertain a motion to record the map labeled compact core as presented by PVPC to include the following amendments. Do I have to read out the lines?
Can we read that? You can, or you could just say the way that we drew the map this evening.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
So the at this time, I will entertain a motion to record the map labeled compact core as presented by PVPC with the amended lines that we have drawn on the screen. He's still drawing.
We make it even a little smaller or just do a snag it of it, no?
I think he's trying to make the lines more visible and draw them down.
just fill it in.
Okay, so we're gonna do it one more time. At this time, I will entertain a motion to record the map labeled compact core as presented by PVPC to include the edits drawn on the map on the overhead.
And amended.
And amended.
To include those edits.
To include those edits. Yes, thank you.
So much.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any no's? Okay,
I'm opposed.
you're a no?
No.
Okay, we have one no.
Or one.
Or one. Steve is a no.
Steve's a no?
Yes.
Okay.
Want me to comment?
If you'd like to comment. You want to comment? Yeah.
I like the participation. I think gets away from the Center Square district as defined in most people's minds. It's a little too big.
Thank you. I appreciate your input.
Made the motion in second. You made the motion?
Yes. Motion.
Yeah. It is.
Second.
Jason.
Jason.
Okay. Anything else?
Any other discussion, comments? Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion to move on to 5A, Deputy Town Manager Report.
Is there another opportunity for public comment?
There will be, we'll have another meeting to discuss bylaws. There'll be more open comments. They're open meetings, so yes.
No comment.
You can allow people to comment again.
Yeah, I mean, if you would like to. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I apologize.
Sorry, this is not the final vote. I don't think they know that.
Name and address.
Address.
90 seconds.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Hi, Timothy Manning, 40 Glendale Road. Just want to bring up a couple things. It's hard to decide on the location when we don't even know what's going in it. It's a mystery box at this point. So until we know the bylaw, it's kind of hard to know whether or not this is good or bad. It's just an unknown. Two, I know a purpose is affordable housing, which is good. Definitely need more of it. There's plenty of other places where affordable housing can be built in town. Don't need to focus just on this area. Three, it is very concerning about the lack of participation. We have 16,000 residents, 10,000 voters call it, 50 people here, maybe more than that at the last meeting. So we're talking, what, 1% of the population, less than that, 0.5%. Just need more involvement, more input. And four, just out of order, as I said, not knowing how this is defined makes it tough to know whether or not this is good. If possible, could a example of a central business district or center town district, an example bylaw be provided so people can review it so we know what it may look like when it comes. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any other comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Actually, Rebecca, you had mentioned during the process for clarification. So we presented this and to the point of what's going on in here. Now that we have delineation, that allows Pioneer Valley Planning Commission to then populate and sort of see scenarios? Okay, thank you.
Direct, Deputy Town
Manager Report, yes, okay.
Do you need to take motion to take it up? Sorry.
Oh, yes,
Go ahead, motion it.
I motion to pick up the town deputy manager's agenda report.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so thanks, everyone. So yes, congratulations, you created a first draft of the Centertown District boundaries. It's really an important milestone because now we can have some more data presented for what the impact of these boundaries will be. And it will help to inform the actual bylaw draft that's created. And this committee will review the bylaw. And as you review the bylaw, you could continue to make amendments to the district boundaries based on the data that's presented. You could also amend the bylaw. And as I stated earlier, all bylaws go through a public hearing process, first through the planning board and then through the town council. So there's many more opportunities to know concretely what would be in the Centertown District bylaw and where in town that bylaw would be impacting or affect which parcels it would be affecting. For those public hearings, there is a notification process for residents that may be affected. So we have the impact analysis. We also received a grant from the Mass Gaming Commission this past year. What we'll be doing with that grant in part is a parcel inventory and land value assessment, which is going to be empowering the town to understand what parcels would be in this district and how they may be marketed to their highest and best use. So that information will be presented at the next meeting as well. And then other than that, we have to take some time to create the data analysis and we'll have a next meeting in 2025 and hopefully turn that around pretty quickly to the planning board. Anything else from the committee? Yep. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.